Toronto office of Infor, and I've been working with the EPAK product for a little over 5 years now. So what I'm going to do actually is, and I apologize for those of you who are familiar with EPAK, I'm sort of going to assume that you don't really know much about it at all. And by the end of today's demonstration, you'll definitely have an understanding of, how the product actually works and how you can use it to create and author your own EAM procedures. So, just bear with me 1 second. In terms of what EPAK is, this slide gives you a very high-level overview. It is a process capturing tool. It's possible that you've used such a tool before. Maybe you've been using Captivate in the past to capture processes for training purposes. So there is a process capturing feature to it. But the really interesting thing about EPAK is it adapts to multiple learning styles, and it does that by taking your initial recording, let's call it, of a procedure. Let's say the procedure is simply called logging into the application. And it will take that initial recording and publish it to several outputs. And an output is simply a method in which an end user can view the content that you created or captured. So that's really one of the greatest features of the application, is that after one simple recording, you can send that recording to a multitude of different publishing outputs. And we'll look at those different published outputs in detail in a moment. The other thing that EPAK is it is a learning management system. So packaged with the EPAK developer itself is a product called the Knowledge Center. And it's essentially a website that you as developers and then your employees as well can hit, and that website holds all of the procedures that you've recorded, and you can also use the Knowledge Center to store reports and also to create course curriculums for your employees as well. If you already have your own LMS with your company, then the EPAK procedures that you capture can be sent to your existing LMS. And then finally, what EPAK is it's a process testing tool as well. So aside from all the e-learning and training aspects, you can actually use EPAK procedures to document processes and then also to test processes. So if there's an update to the product that you're using, you can test based on previous steps, that sort of thing. So there are 3 different testing outputs that can be used. Okay, so again, very high level, that's essentially what EPAK is. It's one tool that allows you to create robust procedures that can be sent out to a multitude of different outputs for your employees. Okay, and so as I mentioned, the title of this slide simply says many outputs from the effort of one. So this slide is actually showing you all of the different outputs that are available after you create the content or the recording of the procedures within the EPAK developer. On the far left are the most popular and the most common outputs that are available, and these are the EPAK video simulations. So again, if we just use the example of logging into the application, the demo video simulation would simply show the procedure of logging in. So you would see the cursor move over and click into the login field, and then you would see somebody type directly into the application, and then you would have them see somebody click in the password field, and the same thing would happen. So the demo video is exactly like watching a YouTube instructional video. There is no interaction on the part of the viewer other than they're simply watching the demonstration in a video format. The next video simulation that's offered is called a practice simulation. This simulation is exactly the same as the demo video. The only difference is bubbles are going to pop up. And if a bubble says click the OK button, the user must click the OK button in order for the video to continue. If another bubble pops up and says type in the password, then the user has to type in the password again to continue. Okay, so that's the practice simulation. Then there's something called a job shadow simulation, and with this one, you can imagine the user is in a live environment. So for example, I've got EAM opened up here. And in that live environment, I need some assistance on something. Well, with the job shadow simulation, what happens is a little window pops up in the bottom right-hand corner of your monitor screen, and it will guide you through the steps needed to perform the particular task that you need assistance with in the live app. So it's kind of like having subject matter experts sit with you while you're figuring out the application. And that's called the job shadow simulation. Okay? From there, we've got a host of printed documents that are available. There's a training manual and an instructor guide. The training manual is essentially a giant how to use the application book. It takes the same screenshots and text that are from the video simulation, but it transplants them into a richly formatted Microsoft Word document or PDF, whichever you want. There's also a job aid, which again is typically a one-page document that simply shows the steps needed to perform a particular task. You typically don't have screenshots in the job aid. Employees often like to keep the job aid documents at their desk for quick reference. And there's also business process documents as well. So with the business process document, you can have, if somebody's working on a particular project, they can view the business process document and then add notes to the steps and the screenshots that are included. And similar to that, there's also PowerPoint decks as well. So for every single procedure that you record, PowerPoint decks are created as well. So you get the screenshot on the left-hand side and then all of the text on the right-hand side. Then we've got the software testing documents that I mentioned before. The software testing documents, two of them are printed documents, again, either in Word or PDF, and that's the test document and test results documents. So typically what happens with these is they're given to a subject matter expert, and that subject matter expert can look at the steps that are outlined in a particular procedure, and they can indicate what the desired results are and then what the actual results are, and then give that information back to the developers. And then the developers would see if there's any changes that need to be made on particular procedures. And then finally, there's an application test case that's part of the software testing, and that one is used if you have software testing software already. Then you can publish an application test case which would send relevant information to the external software testing application that you're using. Okay, and then finally on the far right-hand side in the light blue column, there's a knowledge and assessment section. And what this one means is you can actually sort of test the user's knowledge on what they've been learning from the video simulations or even the printed documents. One of the ways you can do that is by utilizing the knowledge video simulation. So again, this would be the fourth type of video simulation. As you'll see later with the knowledge video simulation, it's a little trickier for the user to get through this particular video simply because the instructions are not as obvious as they were in the previous simulations. In addition to that, there's also tests and assessments that you can create within the EPAK developer, essentially creating a more traditional testing environment with multiple choice questions, short answer questions, things like that. And you could create these questions put them into an assessment, and then attach that assessment to a series of different video simulations, and the user can either perform the, do the questions directly on screen on the computer, or you can print them out inside of the training manual, and they can do them that way as well. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, all of the EPAK content that you create is compatible with any learning management system that you may be currently using. Okay, so those are the different outputs that are available with EPAK. And what we're going to do now is actually have a look at how to record procedures within EPAK. So recording consists of manual or automatic screen capture. And then when your screen capture procedure is completed, everything is opened up in what's called the topic editor, which is essentially the main area that you'll be working. So a quick word on manual and automatic screen capturing. Manual screen capturing means that every time when you're doing the recording of a procedure, every time you perform an action, you have to essentially take a picture of that action and then the screenshot as well. So that means when you click the OK button, after performing that action, you click the print screen button on your keyboard. When you click in a text field, you have to remember to click the print screen button. So manual recording gives you a bit more control because you determine what you want to actually capture in your recorded procedure. Automatic recording is possibly a little bit easier, but there is the risk of capturing certain things that you don't want to. For example, when you automatically record, you only hit the print screen button at the very beginning and then at the very end of the procedure. So once I hit print screen at the beginning, I simply go through the steps involved in the particular procedure. So if it's logging in, I would, just like I do in a normal environment, I would click the field to enter my username, then I would type my username, then I would click the field to type my password, and then I would type my password, and then I would finally click the login button. So with automatic screen capture, EPAK figures out exactly what you're clicking on, and then it takes a picture automatically after each action. Okay, so those are the two main ways of capturing steps in a recording. So what we'll do is look at how that's done right now. So I'm just going to open up an instance of the EAM application. Okay, and I'm going to record a very simple process of creating a work order. So what I'll do first is I'll open up the EPAK developer. So what you're looking at here is what's called the outline view of the EPAK developer. Only developers will be looking at this actual product. Your end users will never see this version of the application. I'll show you what they'll be looking at a little later on. Okay? And what you're looking at here is a very simple outline. You've got the title of your outline, which I've just called EAM Demo. And then when I expand it out a bit, you can see that I've got these blue books. You could think of them as being chapters. In EPAK, they're actually called sections, but you can think of them as being chapters of the main book, which is called EAM Demo. And so the first chapter or section is called Work Orders. The next one is called Purchasing, and finally there's one called Projects. Within each of these sections, we have our procedures. So in the Work Order section, we have a procedure called Viewing a Work Order, another procedure called Creating a Work Order, and a third procedure called Printing Work Orders. Okay? And you can also see we've got procedures in the other two sections as well. Within EPAK, procedures are called topics. So I've got a total of 7 topics here in this particular outline. Okay? The outline is the main way in which you organize all of your procedures into an easily understood format. Okay? And when you want to record a procedure, you simply select it from your outline, and then you just hit your record button. And I'm going to record this empty topic here called creating a work order. And you'll notice it's empty because the icon looks a little bit different from the others. It's just a blank piece of paper. So I'm just going to hit my record topic button. And then what happens is, it looks like the EPAK developer screen has actually disappeared, but really, it's still there. It's just sort of been condensed into what's called a recorder window that floats around, and you can move it as you wish. And now I'm at my target application. So I want to capture the procedure of filling out a work order. So my very first thing to do is to click the print screen button to start. And remember, I'm doing a manual recording, so I'm going to be hitting that print screen button to take a picture after every action I perform. Now, when you're actually doing this yourself, you'll hear a camera click, just like you're taking a picture, and that lets you know that you've successfully captured the action and the screenshot. So the first thing I'll do is select the work menu, and then hit my print screen button. Then I'll select work orders. And when it loads, I'll hit my print screen button again. Okay, and then I'll select the new record button. And print screen. It defaults to the organization field, so I'll just type in 01 and print screen there. Then I'll hit tab just to move out of that field. And then I'll give the work order a name. I'll just call it general repair. I'll choose an equipment. So again, after every action, I'm hitting the print screen button on my keyboard. And for the equipment, I'll just hit OK for the first one there. So I'll just click OK for this. And print screen. And then I think I can click the save button if I'm not mistaken. Yep, there we go. So I get the message that says the work order was successfully saved. And now I can finish my recording. So I'll just click the finish button on the recorder window. So what's happening now once I hit finish is EPAK is figuring out everything I did. It's grabbing all of the screenshots and all of the actions that I performed for that particular procedure, and it's going to open things up in what's called the topic editor tab of the EPAK developer. And that's what you're viewing right now. So you can still see that we've got our EAM demo outline on its own tab, but we've also got a new tab now which is called creating a work order. And again, this is called the topic editor. The topic editor is made up of three main panels. The biggest panel obviously is the screenshot and bubble panel. So this is where you can view the screenshot and also the bubble and the text that's in the bubble. On the far right, you've got what's called the frame properties panel, and this is where you can modify aspects of the bubble. So that means the actual look of the bubble and then the text that's in the bubble as well. And then on the bottom, you've got your frame structure. And the frame structure just is actually showing you how long the procedure is. All of the blue circles, those are called F-frames. Those are all your actions. So remember, an action is clicking, typing, whatever the case may be. So this is telling you how many actions exist in the topic you recorded. And then you also have a start frame at the very beginning, and then an end frame at the very end. Okay? So your start frame always shows the title of the procedure you just recorded. You can easily add some extra text in that start frame bubble by clicking in the yellow custom text window and just adding whatever sort of text you wish to add. So I'll just say something like, in this topic, you will learn how to create a work order. Okay, and you can format this text if you want, just like you would in a Word document. Okay. Once you've got your start frame, the next thing you're going to do is slowly go through each of your action frames to make sure that the text looks good. Because the really cool thing about EPAK is it's figuring out what you're clicking on, where you're clicking, and the name of the thing that you're clicking, and it's trying its best to recognize what you've done, and that's called object recognition. So in this example, it correctly recognized that I clicked on the work menu. It named the item I was clicking on correctly, but it kind of got the actual object type a little bit wrong. It called it an outline button, which actually may not be completely wrong. But if I want to modify this automatic text a little bit, I can easily change the object type by just clicking the down arrow beside object type in the frame properties and just choosing a different object type. So I'm going to choose one called menu. And you'll notice automatically the automatic text, template text changes based on the changes I made within the frame properties panel. Okay, you'll also see that the red highlighted area has these little blue anchors that you can grab to make a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller if you want. Okay, and then when you've done that, you just move on to the next frame just to see if everything's good here, and this bubble actually looks perfect. It's called it the work orders command, and that's correct. It's because it's an entry within the menu. Okay, and then you would just go and continue on modifying your frames. It called this one a tabs button. I'm going to change this to new record. Okay, over here, you can see it's selected the organization text field, which is perfect. And then it also says to type in the number 01 for the organization. And then the next thing I did was press tab to make that active. After that, I'm entering the name. And so you would just slowly go through and make sure that all of your actions are correct. The other interesting thing you could do with EPAK is you can add what are called explanation frames. So remember that every blue circle is an action frame, so there's always going to be some sort of action associated with those frames. But let's just say you want to add just some extra information that's not necessarily an action. So an example of this would be, you can see at the very end of this procedure, after they click the Save button, where is it over here? Yeah. Let me just change that to make it say Save. That's the end of the procedure. But what I think would be really cool would be to actually show the end users the results of the steps that you just completed. So what I would do there was simply insert an explanation frame. So there's an insert menu, and then I would just select explanation frame here. And then a new window pops up, sorry, a new frame with an X on it. That's telling you it's an explanation frame, and I can simply add some information here. You know, the new work order is created and listed with the other orders. Okay, I can even add a fun little graphic icon on here, and I can add an arrow to the bubble and then move the bubble over. So it's actually pointing to the new work order that I just created. Okay, and then on my end frame, again, I can add some sort of summary information. You have successfully completed this procedure.
Hey there, Tim. I wanted to I wanted to jump in also. We're starting to get a couple of questions that are rolling in. One of our attendees wants to know, is it possible to translate this information into other languages for plants they have located abroad? And if so, how difficult is that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually a pretty simple process. It's a two-stage process. The first thing you do is you translate all of your automatic text, like we're looking at here. Click the new record button. This is automated text that I didn't type. So to change that, all you do is go to the properties of the entire, here, just let me save this, of the entire outline. Let me just pull that up. And you'll notice there is, let me just find it here. There's a language section here that says English, and what I would do is simply click that drop down and you change that language to one of the other languages that are available here. And what that does is, whoops, that changes all of this automated text into the language that you selected. And then, so that's the first stage of things. So you do that at the outline level. And that takes about 3 seconds. And when that's done, the next thing you need to do is, obviously you need to change and modify any of the custom text that you added. So here's an example of the custom text here on this frame and also in the start frame and in the end frame. And when you add your custom text, what you do there is you simply export a specially formatted Word document that has all of your custom text in one column, and then a blank column where you can add the text, the translated text. And for that, you can just give that document to a native speaker of the language you want to translate to, or you can use Google Translate. So it's a two-stage process. The first part, obviously, is very fast. The second part is also quick as well because, it takes a bit longer because you actually have to manually translate. But the really neat thing is once you've completed the document that you've exported and added the translated information in, when you import that document back into EPAK, automatically that custom text is translated based on that Word document. So 100% yes, you can translate everything. And as I said, two-stage process. Automated text and all your custom text. Okay, so once the procedure is completed, let me move this for a second. You'll notice now the icon is no longer blank. It's similar to what the other ones look like as well. So I've completed this particular topic. So now what I want to do is I actually am ready to publish my outline. And this is where you get into all of the different publishing outputs that you want to publish to. Okay? So to publish an outline, you simply select the first or the very top book in your outline, and it's called a module in EPAK. In this case, it's the EAM demo. And all you do is select File and then Publish. And this opens up what's called a publishing wizard. The very first page of the publishing wizard is where you need to choose a folder where you're publishing everything to. So just bear with me 1 second. There it is. And then you go to the next screen. And here I want to publish the entire outline, not just a portion of it. So I'm going to keep it at the radio button that says Publish Entire Outline. And then when you get to the third page of the publishing wizard, this is the most important page. This is where you choose the content you wish to publish. And here's a list of all of the different publishing outputs that I talked about earlier. The player is what we collectively call the video simulations. Okay, so you've got your demo video, your practice simulation, the knowledge simulation, and the job shadow simulation. Those are all collectively called a player package. And so it's automatically chosen. You can unselect it if you want. And then in terms of your printed and other documents, you can just choose which ones you want to publish as well. You'll notice that every time you select an output, you have a series of parameters to choose from on the right-hand side. For the most part, you probably won't make any changes to the parameters, but you obviously can. Most of the parameters for the printed documents has to do with choosing the output format, for example, Word, PDF, or HTML web pages, that sort of thing. So when you're done selecting the different publishing outputs, all you do is click your Publish button. And the very first time you publish an outline, depending on how many procedures exist in your outline, it can take anywhere from 10 to maybe 20 or 30 minutes, okay? Every subsequent new publish that you do of that same outline is going to be much faster, because the way EPAK works with publishing is, let's say you're going to publish this outline a second time. Your second publish will be a lot faster because EPAK is only publishing any changes you made. So if you added a new topic and then edited another topic, well, there's not as much to publish in the second publish, so it's going to be a lot faster. So once you click Publish, what happens is you have the folder that you created during the publishing wizard stage. When you get to it, you've got all of your publishing outputs listed here. Okay? The player package, we'll look at that in a different method in a moment. But very quickly, I just want to show you what some of the printed documents look like. So this is an example of the training manual. You'll notice the table of content is pulled directly from the view that's used in the actual outline editor. So you can see you've got the main title, and then the chapters or the sections, and then the actual procedures listed here. So there's viewing a work order, printing work orders, that sort of thing. And when you scroll down, all of the text that shows up in the bubbles is displayed, and you also get screenshots, and then the really cool thing is you get the steps involved in performing the procedure. So the steps is all of the text that shows up in the bubbles on each screenshot. Okay, and as you scroll down, you can see the additional procedures that were included in this training guide. It's all specially formatted, and you can also add your own company's logo. You can have it branded on to all of your printed guides, and then also on the video simulations as well. It takes about 3 seconds to add your company logo. Okay, so that's what the training guide looks like. We'll go through just a few others here. The job aid, as I mentioned, it's typically just a one-page. You'll see there's no screenshots at all. You simply have the steps involved in a procedure. So it's a handy reference guide.
And one other question as well, really quickly. We've had one more come in. As far as the screen resolution on your PC, do you have to change any setting on that to match the EPAK video, or are there any certain customizations that a customer would have to make?
Great question. The answer is yes. So I didn't do it when I did the recording here just to speed things up a bit. I mean, it doesn't take a long time, but so when you're using EPAK, your company needs to determine what screen resolution they want the recordings to be shown in. For us at Infor, when we're creating our content, we use the resolution of 1024 by 768. And I know you might think that's crazy because nobody really uses that resolution. But the thing is, what we've discovered is no matter what resolution that people are using on their computers, it seems that with 1024 by 768, they'll be able to see the whole screen no matter what. So they won't have to do any horizontal or vertical scrolling. So when you've chosen the resolution that you want to use for your recordings, you have to set that global resolution within your EPAK developer. And then when you do your recording, you have to change your resolution on your monitor to match the resolution that you selected globally in EPAK. So in a perfect world, when I do my recordings, I would choose 1024 by 768, and then I would do my recording. And then when I'm done the recording, I would probably switch back to the regular resolution of my monitor because I just find it a bit too big to work with. But great question. The answer is yes, you need to establish a global resolution for all of your EPAK content, and then when you actually record, you need to change the resolution on your monitor when you're recording if you're a developer. Great question. So, system process document really quickly. You can see here again, it's specially formatted. You have fields here for the user to fill out, required fields, comments, output. So there's just additional fields in the system process document for somebody to consider. Same thing holds true for our test documents. This one was published as a Word document. You'll notice here there's expected results, columns, notes the subject matter expert can enter, and then the results as well. So it's another handy document that's, again, used by SMEs typically. Okay, so, and then let me just show you the PowerPoints really quickly. So what the PowerPoint does, as you can see clearly, is it takes the screenshot and places it on the left-hand side of the slide, and then all of the text, custom text and automated text, shows up on the right-hand side. PowerPoints work great in a classroom setting when there's some specific procedures you need to show a large group of employees. Okay. So then, those are most of the printed documents. What I want to show you now is what the video simulations or the player package looks like. And to do that, I'm actually going to open up the Knowledge Center. And remember, the Knowledge Center is EPAK's version of a learning management system, and this is what the Knowledge Center looks like. So I've actually logged into the Knowledge Center as an administrator. So the navigation options on the left-hand side won't be as plentiful for a regular employee. But essentially what they would do is they would simply log into this Knowledge Center, and they would have access to the Knowledge Paths navigation link and the player link for sure. And if they click on the player link, they're going to see a list of the different outlines that they're able to view and participate in. So here you can see is the EAM demo. So when I click on it, the EAM demo outline that I created is displayed here. And the different video simulations are noted by these buttons and each procedure. So what the user simply does is they select a topic and they can choose one of 4 video simulations. The demo video in EPAK is called See It mode. The practice simulation is called Try It mode. The knowledge simulation is called Know It mode. And finally, the job shadow simulation is called Do It mode. When I click on See It mode, again, I'm not clicking on anything, and I'm just watching a video that's called Printing Work Orders. You'll hear the clicks when the cursor touches a certain item, but I'm not doing anything here. I'm just watching the instruction. And you could set the delay time. I think we've got it set at a standard of 3 seconds. Okay, so that's how the demo video or the see it mode works. When I switch to try it mode, same video, the only difference is that it's not going to advance until I perform the task that's in each of the bubbles. So this one's telling me to click the print work order command. When I do that, it takes me to the next option, which is to click the organization browse button. Click the OK button here, work order, select a work order, and then click OK. And that's how the try it mode works. When I get to know it mode, things are a little trickier. You'll notice in know it mode also there's a score that's needed because in know it mode is one of the knowledge and assessment features within EPAK, and so the user gets scored. Out of the box, the score needed is 100%. We've dropped ours down to 80% as a passing, necessary passing grade. Okay, so this you'll also notice now the bubble isn't pointing anywhere. The text is a little bit different, and there's no red highlighted area. So if the user makes a mistake, the bubble changes and says, you've done something incorrect, please try again. If the user makes a second mistake, the custom text changes to the automated text. And if they make a third mistake, the highlighted action area pops up. And if by some strange reason they make a final mistake, the developer will actually perform the task for them. And they can now continue with the procedure. So that's how know it mode works. Do it mode, again, if you remember, is the version of the video simulation where the user is actually in a live environment and they need some assistance. So they would simply hit the play button, and on the top portion of the small window, that's where they get all the text from the procedure. The bottom portion is the screenshot, and they can move around by using their mouse to view the screenshot. You can also make this do-it window bigger or smaller. Okay, so that's how the do-it mode works. And they would simply click the play button to go to the next step of the procedure. So again, really, really handy feature. Okay. Okay, so those are the 4 video simulations of the player package. And if I go back to the main screen of the Knowledge Center, so remember I accessed that player that outline by hitting the player link. The Knowledge Path option, this is where you would create, as an administrator, what you would do is you would create a courseware or curriculum for your employees, and then you would enroll employees in those courses. So it's essentially like they're kind of going to EAM college when they have to perform, they have to view specific procedures in order to complete the necessary learning that was required of them. So in this example, I've set myself up with 3 different knowledge paths. And when you click on one, what it'll do is show you, it gives you a bit of an idea of how the view of this one is a little bit different. So I've got my list of procedures just like we did for, like we were looking at in the original player. But the difference is any procedures that I've successfully completed have a green check mark. Procedures where I'm in the midst of right now, like I haven't completed them, have this other icon here. And then any procedures in which I failed the know it mode requirement show up with a little red X. And so I would have to take this particular procedure again and get that passing grade. Okay? All of the results of your knowledge, of the employee's knowledge path progress and know what modes, scoring, that's all stored in the report section of the Knowledge Center that the EPAK administrators have access to. So you can pull up different reports to view employees' progress and the scoring and things like that. So that's all done within the reports feature as well. The last thing that I wanted to mention regarding EPAK and actually the recordings is when you're in a live environment, there are a couple different ways that you can call on your EPAK content outside of using the Knowledge Center. Okay, I mean, the Knowledge Center is a great tool, but you can actually add a kind of help menu within the EAM application, and within EPAK, that help menu is called Smart Help. And I don't have it set up right now, just because there were some issues I had to deal with regarding the environment that I'm using. But what happens with Smart Help is you simply add an add-on, a patch to your internet browser, and then you create a very simple document within the EPAK developer. And then what happens is, under your Tools menu in your browser, there'll be a new Smart Help feature. And when you click on that Smart Help, a new panel is going to show up on the left-hand side of your browser. And what it's going to do is, it's going to pull relevant topics that are associated to the screen that the user is actually sitting on at the time. So, you know, if I'm on the work order screen here, the results window would display, you know, however many topics are associated with work orders. Right? If I go to the materials window, for example, and then go to currencies, and then I open Smart Help, again, the same thing will happen. So Smart Help is a great feature. There's just a few technical things that have to be set up in terms of the browser and then within the EPAK developer itself. But once it's done, it's a really, really good way to have an in-application support help menu that's sensitive to the screen that the user is actually sitting on at the time. Okay? So that, in a nutshell, folks, is how EPAK works and what it's all about. So, Craig, I don't know if there's any other questions that came in, but I'm more than happy to address them now if you'd like.
Yeah, we had a couple other ones that came in. One of them was, and you might have covered it on the do it and know it sections, but are there any abilities to add voiceovers or add videos to the recordings themselves after they've initially been sent out?
You mean adding, like adding an audio component?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, and I guess I didn't really mention this, and I should have, because you can definitely add audio to all of the recordings that you create. And there's 3 different ways you can do that. You can add audio on the fly as you're actually recording. So as you're clicking and typing, you can say, you know, if you've chosen that way of adding audio, as you're typing, you can say, you know, whatever you want. Now we will type in the password window. So that's the first way you can add audio. The second way you can add audio is after the fact. So if I just open this particular procedure, there's a tab where the frame structure is located. It's called the sound editor. And I can add audio directly from here. So this would be a frame-by-frame situation. Now here you can, when you're adding the audio, you can choose to just say exactly what's in the bubbles, or you can add your own customized audio as well. But all you do is, for every frame, you just hit your record window, and then you add your audio, and when you click OK, you can see here, it's anybody familiar with adding sound to movies and stuff like that is familiar with this. And so you can edit this as well, so you can take off the silence at the beginning and the end, and you would just sort of systematically go through each frame and add your audio. So that's the second way you can add audio. The third way you can add audio is to import it. So maybe in a more professional studio, you added really good audio portions for all of your procedures. You can import that audio, again, from the sound editor using the import sound option. So, yep, you can easily add audio, and there's 3 different ways to do it.
Okay, and then another question that we had kind of piggybacks onto the different versions that you can use or different applications you can use it on. I think the customer wants to know more about how you would use that with the EAM mobility application. And again, I guess you can view this on the mobile solutions.
Yeah, so the EPAK video recordings, like the video simulations, those can all be viewed on mobile devices. When you mention there's an EAM mobility component, does that mean that for EAM, like users can actually access the EAM environment on a mobile device? Is that what that question means?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so what you would do there is, and we've done this a few times, is you would just get, when you're doing your recordings, you would have to just get a mobile device simulator, and you could do your recordings that way. We've done that. We've recorded for some other applications. There's a mobile feature, so we've recorded both kind of like iPad viewed or formatted procedures, and then also cellular phone procedures as well. So, and we just use the simulator for that. But so yeah, you can definitely do it. And then, as I mentioned, all of the video simulations can be viewed from any type of mobile device.
Okay, and for right now, I don't think that we have any other questions. I think we'll hang on for a couple more minutes in case any other the attendants have any other questions that are last minute pouring in. But I just want to reiterate as well, any of the questions that you might have regarding license pricing or any of those things, you'd want to direct those to your specific account manager or the person who invited you to the webinar. We'll be able to cover those topics in a little bit more depth. So we want to really just dedicate this time to any of the functionality questions that you guys might have and learning more about how the solution can be utilized, not just with EAM, but any of the other products that you guys have with Infor as well. And so I think that we've got it pretty covered up here, Tim. Just so everyone knows, we will be sending a recording of this back out to all the attendees. As you'll get the recording as well as the slideshow